future is now.
Hi, everyone. Cheryl here. Welcome to my next podcast episode. I want to talk today about something that's been in the business media that I have been following, and I believe in this. I actually talked about it decades ago when I wrote my book, How to Keep the Generations Happy in the Workplace in 2010. And that was the concept of people weren't going to be retiring as planned. They were going to be refiring. And what I mean by refiring is that they, rather than retire the way their parents did, which was, in the traditionalist generation, they retired and then they, went and golfed or had some sort of, life of leisure after retiring. Those days have not been true for most people nowadays. The Zoomers, the baby boomers who refuse to age, first of all, they're healthier than their parents were. They also have extended longevity. They also have a lot of knowledge that they have gained over 30 plus years of experience. And so with the workers market and the shortage of finding good workers, a lot of companies are having to get creative in how they fill those skills gaps and those needs for knowledge transfer, for mentoring, for guiding, and also for project-based work to get completed. So enter the concept of returnship. Returnship is different than an internship in that returnship applies specifically to people who've worked in a certain organization or an industry. They've retired traditionally, but then they come back to share their knowledge through either timeline projects, 3 months, 6 months, a year, or because the knowledge that they left with, there's still a gap within the organization. So organizations are hiring them back for knowledge transfer projects specifically, or they're having them come back to support a team because of maternity leave, paternity leave, all sorts of different reasons. But returnship is a solution to some of the challenges we're having in the workers market. In 2022 alone, there's predicted to be, millions of baby boomers planning to retire. The challenge with that is that definitely impacts the whole reality of business, given the fact that we've just come through a pandemic, we are in a worker shortage, and losing these talented people is going to detrimentally impact the business. Now, in some cases in the business, there are people who clearly are ready for retirement. In other words, they are burned out. They don't have really much to give. They don't have any more gas in the engine. And so they are truly planning to retire, and they've got that traditional mindset of retirement. But there's a whole percentage of baby boomers, Zoomers, where they're going, I still want to do something. I might retire, take 6 months to recalibrate, to refresh myself, and then I still want to share what I know. I still want to add value. I still want to feel part of something. I still want to contribute. And that's where the concept of returnship is highly valuable. It solves the workers' market crisis in a number of ways. Number one, what it does is rather than look at hiring people traditionally to fill full-time jobs, what it does is it allows you to set those jobs up as contract, as freelance, as other things than that traditional work setup. Also, what it does is it allows us to have more freedom in strategically strategizing how work is going to get done, where it's going to get done, who it's going to be done by, and also whether it's contract, full-time, part-time, and all of those other factors. So when we look at returnship as something that is a strategy or a solution to the workers' market crisis, the Great Resignation, it allows us to look at work differently. And I think the biggest opportunity here for all of us listening to this podcast, watching, is and to take this to your leaders and your teams to share this information, is to shift the way we look at work overall, individually, as a leader, as an organization. In other words, we look at work less as something that needs to be done in a certain way, AKA the traditional job description. And rather, we look at work more strategically by asking ourselves, does this work need to be done in a full-time job role? Could this work be done in a project role? And how long would that project look like? Could this job be done in a knowledge transfer virtual? Could it be remote virtual contract? So all these questions begin to allow us to elevate to that strategic thinking around work, knowledge transfer, and skills gaps training. So I personally like returnship because we are in an era where I think collectively as a society, we're looking less at age as a factor, and we're looking more at knowledge, skills, contribution abilities, adding value. It's not about ageism. So even when we talk about the generations, it's not about putting people in the boxes of a generation. It's really about looking at generational values, and then also add to that generation values piece how technology is allowing us to leverage knowledge, to knowledge transfer virtually through MS Teams or Zoom or whatever our platform is that we're using. And it's allowing us, this post-pandemic reality, to be far more creative around looking at work. And by looking at work in this new way, it actually lines up with the social trend of people wanting to have a life first. And again, the life first desire is happening across all generations. It used to be primarily Gen Y, millennials, Gen Zs, who wanted that life first, work second. But the pandemic accelerated everybody's examination of what does work mean in my life? How much is enough? How much money is enough money? How much do I want to work? How do I want to work? What are my strengths? How can I best contribute? So I think overall, returnship is in alignment with the social trends we've been seeing over the past few years. So what does this mean to you personally? Well, if you are in that demographic that has retired, it's an opportunity for you to really think about, if you were to refire, in other words, go back in some capacity, what would that look like for you? And you have the opportunity to create your future by saying, hey, I only want to work 3 months a year, and I would like to work specifically on, the people aspect of the business, or I'd like to work specifically on a knowledge transfer project, or I'd like to work specifically on supporting this department to excel with a specific goal that they're trying to reach against the strategic plan. If you're of any other generation, millennial, Gen X, whatever your generation is, and regardless of your role, and you find that there's too much work and you guys need help, then think of returnship as a possible solution. In other words, you're overwhelmed in your department because of something going on. Who could you have do a returnship for a specific period of time? So I think there's an opportunity here to open our minds to, any age means possibilities of any kind, that we can create our future in a much more creative solutions way rather than trying to apply, traditional solutions to the existing great resignation and workers' market dilemma that we are in. So I hope that's giving you some food for thought. If you want more information, go ahead and Google returnship. It's something that was in Bloomberg and Business Week, and it's been in the business media, as I said, for a little while now. But honestly, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, I wrote about this, that boomers would not be retiring the way their parents did. And I wrote about that in 2010. And the reason I could see the trend then was you could see the statistics from Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis and all these futurists around longevity extension. And then also the baby boomers are the product of the 60s, which was all about community and collaboration and environment. And we put all that together, and what we see is a social trend that was shaping us towards baby boomers, Zoomers, looking at work in a very new and different way. And then what accelerated that was the millennials, the Gen X's, the Gen Z's, pushing on this whole perspective around work can be done in a much different way. And then add to that now in the last few years with the pandemic, and we could see that work could be done virtually, it could be done remotely. And now all of those things have collided to create this wonderful opportunity for us to reimagine work, to reimagine the way work is distributed, to reimagine aligning people to have work line up with them having a wonderful life at the same time. So lots to dissect here with this particular episode. I will be talking in future episodes about other generational influences on the future of work and the future of all things. And I hope you enjoyed this time that I spoke about returnship. And if you have any thoughts or questions or comments, please put them underneath the video or underneath the podcast. You can also email me directly, Cheryl@nextmapping.com.